nervous, I put a face mask on because I can't stop making insane expressions. I cannot with these people. They're trying to make me wrinkle a little bit sooner than I should. I'm not having that. A little bit more than a sidebar. Long ass sidebar. Good thing we practice patience with parameters. I can't stop shaking my head.
May be seated.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
So that sidebar turned into a break. Long ass break.
Sir, when I asked you about your first report regarding the protocol, you told us October 10th, followed by your supplement on the 17th. You did not remember the day that you first received any information offered by Mr. DeSorga. Is there a document that may refresh your memory?
Yes, there is.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anybody that doesn't believe Hank is trying to overload our brains so we forget about all the bullshit that this guy testified on?
I want you to read this. I just want you to look at it. You can look at any part of it.
Okay.
And look up when you're done, then I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
I think he is too.
Does that refresh your memory the first time that you saw any information provided by Mr. DeSorga?
Yes, it does.
And when was that?
November 7th of 2024.
Before or after you recognized the megabit and megabyte oversight?
That would be after.
Up to 8 weeks.
I want to go back to where we were at before we went to lunch.
Oh,
You had
wait.
described,
Kelsey, you didn't mean it that way, did you? You meant his questioning. In my opinion, it should have already been done and over with, but he's making us suffer, in my opinion.
2 text stream events. I want to focus on the first text stream event, and that is the text stream event relative to the 3-point turn.
Okay.
You had described that there was a timestamp 154. Just to reacquaint us, can you very briefly tell us the significance of 154?
Sure. So GPS point 154 is a GPS point that occurs just before the
Okay.
3-point turn starts.
They were
And why
estimating
is it
6 to 8
important to
weeks.
identify when that turn starts and when it ends?
Sure. So what we're specifically looking at comparing is the end of the 3-point turn. That's going to be the text stream event ending, which is near the end of the 3-point turn, as well as the end of the 3-point turn as recorded in Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone.
Was it important to identify the beginning and end of that event to come to a conclusion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty regarding the variance between the text stream data and Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, there was. So we can't say, we can pinpoint approximately when the 3-point turn ends based on the GPS data. But best practice.
Did you hear that? That was the loudest thunder I've heard in a long time.
Would be to use a range of time. So the range we're using is the time that the 3-point turn starts to the time that the 3-point turn ends.
We have from Mr. Burgess's PowerPoint number 41, please. Is this part of your presentation helpful in explaining the beginning and end point of that 3-point turn?
It does. It does. So if you look at, and if you recall yesterday, the heading change, first heading change from a general north heading is depicted by that green shading circle.
Could you use your pointer, please?
Sure. Yes.
Ms. Gilman.
In my opinion, because there were a lot of accusations made out that the prosecution may have implied he'd look into this and stuff like that, and Brennan's not going to have any of that. He'll throw him under the bus before he tries to claim some accountability.
Can you enlarge just a little bit?
So again, so this green circle is going to be the center of this circle is going to be the GPS point itself. That's going to be centered on the horizontal radius, which is the accuracy. So the green circle represents the 16-foot accuracy zone. The black arrow coming off in a northwestern direction is going to be the heading for that point. And then again, the yellow is going to be the approximately 8 seconds later when the heading changes again in a southerly direction. And then the GPS points after that also continue south with increasing speed.
What part of the 3-point turn event does the green circle signify?
Sure. So that's going to be the approximate beginning of the 3-point turn.
In that time?
That's going to be 12:23:59.
The yellow circle, what part of the 3-point turn does that indicate?
Sure. So that's going to be approximately the end of the 3-point turn. And that time is going to be 12:24:07.
Is there any correlation between the times in the green, the time difference between the green and yellow circle and the range you ultimately arrive at as far as the synchronization variance?
Yes. So that is what determines that range of 21 to 29 seconds.
This illustration or diagram where you've put the green circle, is that based on actual data?
Yes, that is based on actual data recorded by Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone.
That data, is it accurately reflected in this diagram?
Yes, it is. So again, the GPS point that is recorded within the iPhone, every point has a horizontal accuracy. And again, that horizontal accuracy is depicted by the green circle.
Is that level of precision used when you create this diagram?
Yes, it is.
The yellow circle, is that specifically reflected in the data or is that an estimate?
Sure. So that's specifically reflected in the data. So that is another GPS position that has been recorded by the iPhone. Again, with a horizontal accuracy, a timestamp, and a speed and heading.
How about the orange circles?
So the orange circles are are portions of the GPS positions leading up to this event. So if we went back one slide, you would see, it would zoom out, obviously, so a little bit harder to see. But essentially what we've done is I've removed the other orange circles representing GPS points heading north and the GPS points heading south after the 3-point turn. Now,
This is just one witness that's lied, that's perjured themselves. There's several for the state.
I've just
Several.
removed those for clarity to kind of clean up the map so it's easier to read.
On the left, text stream 11621. Remind us again where that information comes from?
Sure. So that's the text stream. That's the end of the text stream event for the 3-point turn. And that is based on the infotainment clock as well as that running timer from the airbag control module.
Does this diagram reflect the data that you reviewed to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes, it does.
To scare it even more, if they could do this to her, they could do it to us.
In breaking down this timestamp 154 and getting into the minute detail of when it started and ended, one of your charts, does it also show it numerically?
Yes, it does.
Can we have number 40, please?
I'm going to blame all my new
Before we
recruits on
discuss this
Hank.
again, where did you get the information to put in this chart?
Sure. So this is coming from Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone. Specifically, it's coming from a SQLite database that is recording locations as he's using the Waze app to navigate.
Is the information in this chart or diagram directly from the data?
It is directly from the data.
Is this accurate to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes, it is.
If we could zoom in just a little, we'll have to go left to right, Ms. Gilman. Let's start with the left. Timestamp 154. At what point in that 3-point turn does the 154 represent on the left?
Yeah, so timestamp 12:23:58 or GPS point 154 is approximately 1 second before we see the heading change. If we could zoom out just a little bit more. Yeah, so we see the heading change represented in green. That's a heading change to 284. Before that, we've got a pretty consistent heading of 348 to 339. So that first heading change, as well as the drop in speeds, is indicative of a 3-point turn maneuver.
The latitude and longitude, did that assist you in making the diagram with the circles on it?
Yes, it did.
How so?
So the latitude and longitude are the center points for each GPS point, or the center point for each circle.
There's a green highlighted row and an orange highlighted row. What's the difference between the two?
Sure. So the green highlighted row is, again, the beginning, the approximate beginning of the 3-point turn. And the orange or the yellow is the approximate end of the 3-point turn.
Try again, Corey.
In the time between the green and the orange lines?
Approximately 8 seconds.
Mentally, 100%.
Is that consistent with the range that you've shown for synchronization?
Yes, it is.
Point 21 or plus 21 and plus 29?
Yes, it is.
I've been telling you guys for the past 2 weeks he's doing it on purpose.
The
Right?
inevitable variance that you found between the text stream data and between Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone, could you share with us to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty what that variance is?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Do you have an opinion about the time range in the synchronization between Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone data and the Lexus clock that shows the text stream data to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Objection, Your Honor. I appreciate an approach.
Okay, so answer that question, yes or no.
Sure. So, yes, I can.
So I'll see you at sidebar, Mr. Johnson.
Sidebar again. This is the prosecution on it for second go around. Patients with parameters. Thank you, Icky. Has anybody looked up Hank's past experience as a trial lawyer? I'm wanting to know if the other cases he went this hard, whether he realized that the person was guilty or not. I'm second guessing that man. Well, then again, I never really first guessed him, so never mind. Ooh, did you see Alessi's face? He's pissed.
Can we go back to slide 40, please?
Yeah, 1 sec.
Can we go back to slide 40, please? In reaching your conclusion about the variance between the defendant's Lexus as contained in the text stream as it relates to Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone, what Was stamp 154, timestamp 154, part of your analysis?
Yes, it was part of my analysis.
Was the running
Right,
clock
Jamie?
on the text stream data part of your analysis?
Yes, it was part of my analysis.
What else was part of your analysis?
Sure. So in addition to the location data, including the GPS 154, that would be the running clock for the text stream data, as well as the infotainment clock from the Lexus.
How does the running clock correlate?
Is that my little brother? Yep. Hi, brother. How are you? We have a tornado watch.
With the text stream data and with the time on Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone?
Sure. So they correlate. So the running clock and the infotainment clock are used to create that timestamp for the text stream events 1 and 2. And then comparing those to the iPhone, we can adjust and get a clock variance for those.
Did you come to a conclusion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty about the variance range between the defendant's Lexus and its clock system and Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, I did.
And to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, what is that variance that is needed to identify for synchronization?
Oh,
That is
Of course.
21 to 29 seconds.
Aaron started his yesterday.
Number 43.
It's just the audacity for Hank to get up and think that we're going to forget everything. Exactly, Jamie. Right there, smoke and mirrors.
Did you create this diagram?
I did, yes.
When comparing the text stream event, the backing maneuver, to Mr. O'Keefe's clock on his phone, do you recognize the different timestamps on each device?
Yes,
And brother, you've been missed.
I do.
Everybody missed you.
When you are trying to synchronize them, what do you do? What is the base? Do you start with the text stream event and you add, or do you start with Mr. O'Keefe's phone and subtract?
Sure. So we could do it either way because we're wanting to compare this against other events that happened or occurred on Mr. O'Keefe's phone. We're going to adjust the text stream clock or the Lexus clock to Mr. O'Keefe's clock. But you could do it either way.
The window that is depicted on this diagram, this is not the 3-point turn.
No, this is not the 3-point turn.
Which event is this?
This is going to be the backing maneuver.
In my opinion, it's because it's whatever the Commonwealth says goes, goes. Since it was live, I can't look at the time, but we're not that far. Not that far.
The green, what does that green depict?
Sure. So the green depicts the range of time that this text stream event ended. So based on our range of 21 to 29 seconds, and applying that, adding that to the Lexus clock, we get a adjusted time of 12:32:04 to 12:32:12, and that's going to be the approximate end time of text stream event 11:62:2.
Now again, the text stream data has a limit on the amount of time available.
Hold the hell on. Now you're changing, you want to change it from 8 seconds? How many alternative timelines are they going to try to put out here?
Can you rephrase your question? So I
Sure. You said
understand.
a window is captured during a triggering event.
Sure, yes. So there is a window that's captured during the triggering event.
And what is that window? How much time?
Sure, so from the text stream trigger, there's 5 seconds before and 5 seconds after.
Don't spoil.
Can an event be longer than that 10-second window?
Yes, it can.
And in this case, do you know at the end of this reconciled event at 12:32:12, Do you know from your study what direction the defendant's car was traveling at 12:32:12?
It would have been traveling in reverse.
And at 12:32:12, do you know how fast the defendant's Lexus was traveling at 12:32:12?
I do not recall.
Convenient.
Mr. O'Keefe's last user interaction with his phone at 12:32:09, where does that fall within the 10-second window that was captured by the text stream data?
Sure. So that falls within that 8-second window. So again, the text stream.
Why does Hank keep telling him a different number? And first he said 10-second, then this guy says 8-second. You see the way that they're messing up with the time? They need to clarify. This is crazy. Hi, Donna. How are you?
Event ends somewhere between 12:32 and 04 and 12:32:12. But that does not represent that the backing maneuver has ended. Just the recorded data has ended.
And in your review, do you have around this time any other movement of Mr. O'Keefe's phone after 12:32:16?
I did not look at that specifically. It was my understanding that Mr. Whiffen looked at that.
I'm doing okay, thanks.
To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, did both these events, the last user interaction and the window captured on the reconciled data for the text stream, happen around the same time?
Yes, they did.
I have no further questions.
Josh, you can't roll up in a room like this and say something like that and just roll right out. The hell?
Or I can approach later or now.
So we can approach again.
I don't think she was ever guilty. Josh really just rolled up here and said, is she guilty yet? Read the room, Josh. Read the room. Aw, tell her happy birthday. Even Josh had to laugh at that. Guys, remember to put the IMOs after the end of those sentences. Just let people know it's an opinion only. Why is AJ and Karen sitting at the table? Why didn't they go up to the sidebar too? Game plan. That's what they're doing. I'm just choosing to ignore after doing the comment. Not here, it's not done. Okay. Right.
Your Honor, I move into evidence the following pages from Mr. Burgess's PowerPoint presentation. Move into evidence page 41.
I mean,
I move
anything's
into evidence
possible.
page 40. And I move into evidence page 43.
Okay, allowed.
Add the IMO, Jamie. I know, right, Courtney?
I have no further questions.
About damn time, hallelujah.
Once we get these marked up.
Good point. Underneath all that snow. They didn't announce that it was lunch break. They just had an extended break, so we don't know which break it was that was lunch. But I'm guessing that that was the last one.
Mr. Lessie.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You mean Bovalesi? Hold on.
Mayor, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Get him, Alessi, get him.
Mr. Burgess, between the time you left the witness stand yesterday until this moment, have you talked to anyone about this case?
No, sir, I have not.
How do you get the what?
Has a filing ever been made in any court in which your educational background has been misrepresented?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Oh
Pardon me?
shit.
Not that I'm aware of.
Hold on, I gotta put my feet down for this. The stickers are subscriber stickers. So you'd have to do this.
Did I understand that you're based out of the
That thing.
Aperture office in Texas?
Yes, I am.
And are you aware of a case in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Texas, Marshall Division, titled Jeffrey Glover and Teresa Glover versus Graphic Packaging International, LLC? Are you familiar with that case?
Yes, I am.
And is it correct that in that case, well, tell me how you are participating in that case, sir?
So I'm no longer participating in that case.
Thank you for
So if I
extending.
believe correctly, that would have been a accident reconstruction case from, I don't recall, a year or two ago.
Me
And
too,
so
Lisa.
it was a case that you did participate in, correct?
Yes, I did.
And what was your role in that case?
Sure. So my role in that case was an accident reconstructionist.
And did you provide any testimony, deposition, or otherwise in that case?
No, I did not.
Did you, in that particular case, there were, like all cases, filings made, correct?
I'm sure there were, yes.
Yeah, guys, please put IMO at the end of your statements. It means in my opinion. Get him, Alessi. Get him. He's literally gonna he's putting another case. Is a blaring example. Mm. How long is it gonna be before he turns his red as the tomato again? Yeah.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I would like to have a document marked as the next exhibit for identification,
Okay.
please.
Don't spoil it, guys. Let us experience it.
Exhibit EEE for ID.
Get him, Mr. Alessi.
May I present to the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess, I am showing you a document which has been marked as Exhibit EEE for identification, and I'd ask that you take a look at it, sir. Your Honor, may I remain here?
Sure. As
Thank
long
you.
as you stand back a little bit.
Exactly, yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
He wouldn't want to be too close to him anyways.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess, with regard to Exhibit EEE, do you recognize the second page, and do you recognize any stamping at the top of each of those pages?
Yes, I do.
And can you describe what that stamping is?
Sure. So that is stamping for a file date of 8/7/2023.
And is that a stamping of a federal court?
That I'm not sure.
Did he lie during a federal case? You can't see my expressions,
If I were
but
to show you a document, might a document refresh your recollection as to whether
Sure.
Exhibit EEE is a filing in a federal court?
Yes.
May I, Your Honor?
Sure.
I am showing you,
Did you show those to Mr. Brennan?
thank you, Your Honor. I believe I did, but I want to make
And
sure.
just let me know if we need to move.
okay, he's getting more than red now.
Can I mark
Right,
each of
yes.
these for identification? There,
Yep.
let me just give one first. If I could see that back.
I think he might have found something.
Second page for that. It is, so it can be marked as one document from that.
He's close. I know, Courtney.
Can I reach over you, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, I am showing you what has been marked as Exhibit FFF for identification and ask whether or not this document can refresh your recollection as to whether the court filing that you reviewed in Exhibit EEE is indeed a federal court.
Yes, it is.
So
Right,
that
John?
document refreshes your recollection that what has been filed as represented in EEE is a filing in a federal court, correct, sir?
Correct.
Now, what I'd like to do is to draw your attention to the
Can't make the shit up.
second page of this exhibit. Is that a curriculum vitae of you and a picture of you?
Yes, it is.
And sir, under education,
Objection.
I would,
The objections stay.
do you,
Do you want to bring it over? We can take
I
it
will,
over.
Your Honor, I will.
Sir,
Do you
feel
want to
free
bring it
stand
over
up
for a
and-
sidebar? What? I lost count. Are we on number 6 or 7? Patients with parameters. Don't worry, we don't have to wait. Yeah, education and instant objection. At least we know Hank did not fall asleep.
Just, I'm gonna have to get a little closer.
Sure.
Proximity.
Earlier, Brandy.
What I would like to do, sir, is to put before you again Exhibit FF for identification and Exhibit EE for identification. And what I would like to do is to ask you some questions, sir, with regard to the process in the case.
Okay.
Are you aware, or do you recall in this litigation that, as typical in
No.
litigation, including federal courts, that as part of the litigation process, the parties have to designate their expert witnesses? Are you aware generally of that process?
Generally, yes.
Yes. And have you participated in the documents that need to be prepared for an attorney or a party to prepare documents and submit them to a court to establish the designation of expert witnesses?
No, I have not.
And so you have never participated or never been aware of a process like this?
No, I'm aware of a process, and that process goes through other staff members
Okay, so it goes through other staff members where?
at Aperture.
Are you aware that that process is occurring, even though it may be done by other staff at Aperture?
Yes, I am.
And in this instance, you were aware in this litigation that staff at Aperture needed to submit documents in support of an expert witness designation, correct? Even though you may not have done it yourself, correct? Even though you may not have done it yourself, you were aware that some person or persons at Aperture were performing that process, correct?
Correct.
And they were performing that process so that you could be designated as an expert witness in that case, correct?
Correct.
And so you were aware of the process, you were
Yes.
aware they had to submit documents that would establish your qualifications as an expert in the case so that you could be designated as an expert witness, correct?
Correct.
And now specifically with regard to Exhibit EEE for identification with these court filings, etc., even though you may not have done it yourself, were you aware that this document, which is EEE, was submitted as part of the expert designation process we were talking about?
Nice.
Not this specific document, no.
Were you aware that a CV was needed to be submitted on your behalf as part of the designation process?
Yes.
So you were aware a CV had to be submitted, but you're saying you don't recall this specific one being submitted?
Correct.
Does the timestamp up at the top of each page of Exhibit EEE, including this page that is your CV, match the timestamp, or is it different from the timestamp at the top of Exhibit FFF?
No, that is the same.
So it's exactly the same.
Yes.
And have you been involved in processes in courts where your qualifications, including your CV, have had to be submitted to courts to establish a designation as an expert witness?
Yes.
And can you conclude from these documents, including the timestamps, that the submission that was made to the court to establish your status as an expert witness consisted of Exhibits FFF and EEE?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I move EEE and FFF into evidence.
Objection.
You need one more step, Mr.
And, sir, do EEE and FFF fairly and accurately represent the submission of documents in support of a designation of expert witness in this case?
Yes, as far as I can tell.
Your Honor, I offer these two into evidence.
I'm going to allow it over here.
Thank
Hold on. I think Bev understands where we're at this point. She might be saying, you know what, I'm out, I tap out. I'm not going to do this anymore. Because she just, not only did she overrule that, she helped Alessi. She said, you need to do one more step. She's not supposed to really do that, but she did. And she did it for the defense, not the prosecution. I'm wondering if she's having a change of heart. You know I like to see the better in people.
Bring those, please, Mr.
you. Yes, Your Honor.
Sidebar again. As soon as she heard the word federal, too, yes. He's a federal liar now, too.
May I hand to the
Yes.
Mr. Burgess, I am handing you what is now in evidence as Exhibit 193. I would like to draw your attention to the fourth page, which
Yes.
is your CV, and further, if I could, sir, draw your attention to the category of education, where it says BGS. Is it correct that there you state Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama - Birmingham, Alabama, comma, 2024? Did I read that correctly?
Oh,
You
shit.
did read that correctly. And this was filed in 2023.
Understood. So now what I'd like to do, Your Honor, is to
Bev's got problems. She's got to take notes.
keep this for a moment, Your Honor, give it to the witnesses as needed. Thank you. With Your Honor's permission, I would like to publish a document that is already in evidence.
Okay.
Actually, there may be two, 183 and 184. Let's start with 183. Let's expand it. And then, Mr. Wolf, do we have what has just been to publish as well? So what I'd like to do is to publish first, with the court's permission, Exhibit 193 that we were just talking about, so the jury can see what has been the subject of discussion. And sir, if you, Mr. Wolk, if you could just enlarge, all we need is the education section. Now, Mr. Burgess, as I heard it correctly in questions from Mr. Brennan, you answered the question that whether you had ever filed a document that misstated your educational background in a court. Do you recall that question asked of you?
Yes, I did.
And your answer was no, correct, sir?
Correct.
So let's look at this document, which we've just gone through, was filed in federal court in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Texas, Marshall Division, which is a federal court. And attached to it is your CV, and in the line of education, it lists under BGS, Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, 2024. You see that, sir?
I do, yes.
Now, you stated, and now what I'd like to do is do a, is there any qualification whatsoever in that line, that reference to BGS, qualifications at all, explanation, sir? Is there anything?
I don't know what you mean.
It's just a statement, right? There's words there, there's nothing after it that explains what's intended, correct?
Correct.
Now what I'd like to do, Your Honor, is to go to what was filed in this case, which is in evidence, and we'll go to 183 and then 184.
Damn.
Now, in what has been filed in this case, there is a currently pursuing at the end after University of Alabama - Birmingham, Alabama, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Let's go back, please, to Exhibit 193.
Guys, let's not argue over semantics, please.
There's no currently pursuing there, is there, sir?
There is not, but that was filed in 2023, so that would be an expected graduation date of 2024.
Okay, so this document was filed in 2023. However, there's nothing in this document that in any way leads the reader to believe anything other than the degree is obtained on 2024, correct?
Correct.
So the only way somebody in the court system or a judge or a jury would know anything about this is to have to know about court filing dates, correct? I'll ask it another way, Mr. Burgess. You know how to write. Let's go back to 183 and 184. You know how to write currently pursuing on your CV, correct?
Correct.
And writing currently pursuing lets the reader know that you don't have that degree, correct?
Objection.
In that form, sustained.
You intend by writing currently pursuing, don't you, sir, that anybody reads this to know that you do not have a bachelor degree, correct?
Correct.
Now let's go back to what you filed in what was filed in federal court in that case.
She sustained it.
And it does not have the words currently pursuing, correct?
It does not.
So the reader, so it doesn't have that verbiage, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Alyssa.
So isn't it
That's a
the
good question.
correct answer that
I
you
don't know.
did file a document, your CV, in this federal court case that misstates the status of a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration?
Objection.
Sustained.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
That's one name for him. Clearly, they thought
You
it was.
stated again, sir, that you have not filed a document that misstates your educational background, correct?
Correct.
And the last time I'll cover it, you
Thank
know how to
you.
put currently pursuing on anything to do with a Bachelor of Science, correct?
Correct.
So you knew it was wrong and you just
A
chose?
Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration does not exist as an offered degree at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, does it?
Sure. So that is an error. Clearly, BGS stands for Bachelor's of General Studies, and that should have a with minor in Mathematics and Business Administration.
What is clear from that document that BGS stands for a Bachelor of General Studies? What is clear in that document about the definition of that acronym?
That is a known acronym.
I cannot with him.
Let's go back to Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration. That degree does not exist. It is not offered at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, correct?
No, that is not.
So therefore, an
His name is
incorrect
Shannon.
statement about your educational background was filed in a federal court in Texas, correct?
Yes, it was.
That's it, Mr. Leslie?
That's it.
Okay. Is there anything?
There is.
This is today. Sharing is caring, Jamie.
The document that the attorney just showed you, did you submit that to the federal court?
No, I did not.
Did you ever see that document before it was filed?
No, I did not.
The document says 2024 for a degree. Is there a presumption whether you had it or expected it if that document was filed in 2023?
Yes, there is.
And what is the presumption if it was
The-
filed in 2023?
Objection, Your Honor, respect.
So presumption,
Well,
we'll strike that.
okay. He asked if there was any designation to make it clear. If it says 2020, if it was filed in 2023, and it says 2024, what was your expectation at that time as far as your degree?
That I would complete my degree in 2024.
When you didn't complete your degree,
You haven't been following it? Don't worry, I post all my lives on YouTube after. Make sure you could go over there and check them out. Yes, this case, I'm addicted to it. I don't know how this is our justice system. This is one case you cannot miss. One trial you have to see.
2024 as you expected, did you then change your CV
Yes, I did.
to accurately reflect the change in your status?
Yes, I did.
And what did you change it to?
Currently pursuing.
Why didn't you finish your degree
Yeah.
in 2024?
Sure. So
Objection, Your Honor, still.
No, I'm going to allow it.
as most people can probably relate, work, family, and life many times get in the way. So as a personal objective, I would like to finish my bachelor's, but again, work and life gets in the way.
Did you ever represent to a court that you had a degree that you didn't earn?
No, I have not.
He asked you a number of questions about this 2023 filing, but didn't ask you any questions about the data. Does your opinion regarding the data change in any way in light of his questions about a 2023 filing that you didn't file and someone filed on
CW.
your behalf?
Objection, Your
The objection is sustained. I'm going to strike that.
Hank, you just got something stricken from the record. That was stricken.
You are all
She
set.
struck
Thank you.
it. Side note, if you guys do face masks, make sure you use all the serum that's in the bag and on the plastic pieces before you throw it away. This stuff is gold.
Mr. Brennan?
All right, I'd like to play a number of clips. If I can begin with clip 23.
What do we say every day?
So we approach from the north, we actually missed the turn, and John says to me, it's Fairview, we just passed it, it's back there, it's on my left. I said, all right, so I pull nose into a driveway and back out onto the street, which I now own was Cedar Crest, and then come from the north onto Fairview.
That's right, Susan.
I'd like to next play clip 25.
Leslie, or Brennan giving me wrinkles and shit.
At
It really
12:41,
does.
I leave a voice note to John where you can clearly, and this will probably be played on Monday, you can clearly
No.
hear me pull into John's garage. You can hear my car sensors beeping as I come close to the sides of the garage door. And then you hear the car go off, and then you hear the slight ding, ding, ding as I open the door, shut the door. I had high heels on that night. You hear me walk in, go into the stairs up into the kitchen, shut the door. You hear me walk in the kitchen. It's like a full minute long. That's at 12:40.
There's nobody on the stand, guys. This is the clip that the CW is playing. Karen, they haven't called anyone yet for the ID docuseries.
And finally, clip 24.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have several times.
I do. I mean, I'll tell you, John and I argued the morning of the 28th, Friday morning. So we think he died right around 12:25, 12:30 on the earlier morning of January 29th.
He left. Bob let him go. Nothing to see here, folks.
Thank you. I have
That's
these
so
for
sad.
submission of evidence, right?
I feel like we have to know if this guy gets fired. I think as people that pay for specialists, I think we have a right to know.
Call Miss Christina Hanley to the stand.
Christina Adley? I feel like we have a right to know. But you gotta remember, this is... They've been doing it throughout the whole trial in between witnesses, basically. Not every time, but a lot.
This officer of the ever seen before the jury in the case now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
This is the point where Hank tries to overload our brain as much as possible to make us forget the shit that just happened the past 2 days. In my opinion.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, guys,
Good
please
afternoon,
please put IMO when you guys are stating opinions. I don't want people to come in and say Michelle's misinformationing. I'm not here for that or have time for that.
Afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name for the court?
Sure. I'm Christina Hanley. Hanley is Hanley.
And Miss Hanley, what do you do for work?
I am a forensic scientist 3 at at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory in the Trace Arson and Explosives Unit.
And where did you go to school?
I went to, I had received my Bachelor of Science in Chemistry with a concentration in Forensics from Merrimack College.
And do you have any other degrees?
Hi, how are you?
I do not.
Good to
Now,
see you.
following your education, where did you first go to work?
No, Michelle.
I began working at the State Police Crime Lab in 2008 in the Drug Identification Unit. And in 2009, I transferred into the Trace Unit. And in 2017, I was promoted from a Forensic Scientist 2 to a Forensic Scientist 3
It's okay.
in
I do
the
it
Trace
too.
Arson and Explosives Unit.
Could I ask you please to speak up, please?
You can bet that they're
Family,
fact
if it
checking
helps, that
everything
microphone
she's
is
saying right
adjustable,
now.
so if you could get it as close to you as possible, that would be great. Thank you. The Massachusetts State Police Crime
Thank you
Laboratory
for
where you work, is that
subscribing.
accredited?
Welcome to the family.
Yes, it is.
And by whom?
We are accredited by ANAB.
And what does ANAB stand for?
ANAB stands for ANSI National Accreditation Board.
And what does ANSI stand for?
Sorry, I can't remember exactly what ANSI stands for. I apologize.
That's okay. As part of that accreditation process, do you undergo any sort of proficiency testing?
Yes, I do.
And can you explain to the jury what that proficiency testing process consists of?
Sure. So proficiency tests are a quality assurance measure that's used to monitor performance. And I'm required to complete at least one external proficiency test per year, where I'm authorized to do casework in multiple subdisciplines. In my unit, I typically complete more than one proficiency test per year.
We're on day 19. This is day 19. This is today. We just start later, so we could fast forward.
And what areas do you specifically undergo proficiency testing in?
Sure. So I'm authorized to do casework in multiple subdisciplines in Trace. So I complete proficiency tests in the subdisciplines of hairs, paint, fibers, glass, tape, and serial number restorations and physical match examinations.
And generally speaking, what is entailed in those proficiency testing that you're given multiple times a year?
It's provided by an external company that provides the proficiency test, and I'm required to successfully complete one of those proficiency tests per year.
I see it. Yeah, she's nervous.
Now, have you successfully completed each of those proficiency tests that you've taken?
Yes, I have.
Now, what type of training or continuing education have you undergone at the State Police Crime Laboratory?
Sure. So I had internal training as well as external training. The internal training consisted of, I had to complete required readings. I was required to complete some laboratory exercises, learn how to utilize the instrumentation in the lab. I observed other analysts in the unit working on casework. I was also required to complete a written exam as well as a competency test, and in addition to that, a mock trial.
Now, you mentioned earlier in the testimony you're a forensic scientist 3 currently, is that correct?
Thank you for
That's
the
correct.
follow.
And what is the difference, or can you explain the difference to the jury between a forensic scientist 2 versus a forensic scientist 3?
Sure. So forensic scientist 2 is essentially just like a bench chemist who their primary role or responsibility is casework. A forensic scientist 3 does casework, but in addition is also a unit supervisor.
Now, what does the trace unit do or examine within the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab?
I just want to say, guys, I noticed we got over 70,000 likes. That means so much. Thank you, guys.
Sure. So I'm responsible for examining and comparing trace items that, for example, such as paint, glass, fibers, hairs, tape, miscellaneous items. I also perform serial number restorations on firearms and physical match examinations.
And what are your general duties and responsibilities within the trace unit within the lab?
So I am responsible for the general operation of the unit. I train other forensic scientists within the unit. I also complete technical and administrative reviews of casework. And I also complete my own casework in the trace disciplines that I previously mentioned.
Now, Ms. Hanley, you as a supervisor, you review other analysts' work within the trace unit, correct?
Yes, I do.
And who reviews your work for any sort of trace analysis that you do?
Could you?
So depending on what the subdiscipline, some of the casework that I'm authorized to do work in, it needs to be technically reviewed by an external technical reviewer because I'm the only one within my unit that can do certain types of casework currently. So we have to utilize.
I cannot with the I cannot.
An external technical reviewer at this time.
Now, with reference to physical match analysis, can you explain to the jury first, just in general terms, how is that analysis performed?
And to be abundantly clear, if I was sitting there and I was doing them, I would expect you guys to call me out on it too. It's had nothing to do with her. It's just what I'm hearing, and it's
sure.
Not
so
that,
when I receive
bad.
an item, I take that item into my custody, and I document it with photographs, and I make observations and take notes, and then I'll examine the items microscopically, and I will do any comparison work to determine if there is or is not a physical match between items.
This is nothing personal, but I see her as the person on every movie like Venom, the person that was behind the scenes, like creating the pathway for the monsters. Is anybody else getting those vibes too? Like she can be controlled. Let's hope not.
Now, that physical match analysis within the trace unit of the state lab, is that general work supported by any sort of scientific principle or methodology that you're aware of?
Yes.
Did she just answer with a question? What?
Photographs, and I make observations and take notes, and then I'll examine the items microscopically, and I will do any comparison work to determine if there is or is not a physical match between items.
Now, that physical match analysis within the trace unit of the state lab, is that general work supported by any sort of scientific principle or methodology that you're aware of?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Are you familiar with something called the Lockhart exchange principle?
Yes, so the Lockhart exchange principle, it's kind of the foundation or basis of trace analysis. It is a principle that states that when two objects or two items come into contact with each other, there is an exchange of material.
That can't be right. There's no way. Yeah, I did. There's no way. No way that it was 2017. There's no way to, no.
Now, with reference to your workspace, what is it that you do to your bench between your examination of separately packaged items?
Sure, so the benchtop as well as the tools that I'm going to use are all cleaned with a bleach solution. And once that's done, there's a clean piece of butcher paper that's put down on the bench, and that's done in between looking at different items.
And why is it that you do that in between looking at different items?
That's done to prevent any cross-contamination.
Now, you've alluded a little bit earlier in your testimony, but on what types of evidence can you perform a physical match analysis?
Sure, so physical match examination can be conducted with many different types of material. For example, plastics, glass, tape.
But on the counter hand, I have to bitch slap myself back down, because how would you want to be perceived when you're on a witness stand? Wouldn't you want to seem kind of nervous? A little bit? Just enough for it to make you feel sorry for you? Maybe that's all an act. Meek, thank you. My words are failing me again.
Etc.
Now, when evidence
Not an
is
expert,
submitted
yeah.
to your lab, how is it kept track of throughout its stay at the lab?
Sure. So when evidence is submitted to the laboratory, the case information is put into our LIMS system, which stands for Laboratory Information Management System.
Yes, you guys are right. I was trying to think of both sides of the argument here with this witness. Thank you for pulling me back down to earth.
And once it's assigned that number, how is it sort of tracked as it progresses through the different units within the lab?
Sure. So the unique case number that's assigned to the case is tracked within the system. It's referred to as the chain of custody. So items of evidence will get scanned depending on where their location is, and the LIMS system keeps track of all of that. So we know exactly where an item is.
Today.
So when you take an item or you receive an item to be tested, can you explain to the jury what you do to begin your analysis?
Sure. So when an item gets scanned into my custody, after I've prepped my area to examine the item, I scan that item into my custody, and I will document that item with photographs. I will make notes of my observations. I will examine the item microscopically. If needed, I'll proceed with sampling and possibly additional microscopic examination and instrumental analysis.
Remind me to make a video of that after the live, because I think our support group needs to see that moment.
Now, specifically starting with items
Sure,
of glass,
Alexis.
when you take an item of glass to conduct a comparative analysis, generally speaking, what is the process for conducting such an examination of glass?
You're right, Gloria.
So it'd be the same process that I just mentioned. I would take that item, take photos, make any observations. I would proceed with.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting here worrying about the wrinkles that I'm getting from what's his face, and she's got really good aging, or she looks really young.
first I would check to see if there's any physical match comparisons, and then if needed, I would take any samples to examine it microscopically and or instrumentally.
And that general process that you've just described is the items that you tested in reference to this case or analyzed in reference to this case. Is that the process that you followed in this case?
Yes.
Now,
Kat, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I forgot to write it down. I just wrote down forensic scientist too. Wait, hold on. I'm such an idiot. Never mind.
what kind of instruments do you use, starting off with items of glass, what kind of instruments do you use to conduct that analysis?
Sure. So I'll use a stereo zoom microscope to initially examine it microscopically. If I take samples to do additional microscopic examination, I'll examine it under a polarized light microscope. And then if I need to take samples to do instrumental analysis, that would be using our, it's referred to as a GRIM, which stands for Glass Refractive Index Measurement. It's an instrument that measures the refractive index of glass.
And if you could, please explain to the jury, what is a refractive index?
Sure. A refractive index is a measure of how light bends when it passes from one medium to another.
And how are you viewing that?
For the love of God. She's looking at light bending? That's the level we're going to here? Really?
At utilizing the GRIM device when it comes to glass?
So a sample is prepped on a slide and it is placed on a hot stage of the microscope of the instrument, and the oil that the sample is in it goes through a cooling and a heating phase, and as it's going through a cooling and a heating phase, it passes through what we refer to as a match point. So you can make that
I think this is a good time for me to step away and use the bathroom. I'll be right back. I'm sure
observation as the sample is running, and then when the sample is done running, it takes an average and it calculates the refractive index of the sample through the calibration data of the instrument.
And what is an FTIR?
So an FTIR is a Fourier transform to analyze certain types of samples. Essentially, a sample is exposed to infrared light, and your sample reacts in a certain way to it, and it produces a spectrum or a graph of peaks and valleys, and it is representative of your sample.
And how is that FTIR instrument, how is that used in this type of physical match analysis?
So actually the FTIR was not used for physical match examination.
Now, you mentioned it a little bit earlier in your testimony. What is a polarized light microscope?
So polarized light microscope it's a microscope that just has a couple of filters in it that we use to look at samples at a higher magnification and make observations of certain optical properties of samples.
And how are you utilizing that instrument in your analysis in the lab?
So it's used to examine various different types of samples, paint, fiber. We can also look at glass.
Do you document your work as you perform your analysis in the lab?
Yes, I do.
Now, Ms. Hanley, at some point were you assigned to perform some work on a lab case number 22-02184 pertaining to this defendant, Karen Reed?
Yes, I was.
And what type of work were you assigned to do in this case?
So I was given items for physical match comparison of some glass items, as well as some instrumental analysis of the glass. And I was also given items for some items of plastic for comparison.
Now, starting with glass pieces, do you recall what item numbers you analyzed pertaining to the glass pieces?
Yes, so I examined items 3-2, which was a clear glass cup with broken irregular edges. I was also given item 3-3, which was 5 pieces of clear glass with broken irregular edges from the bumper of the vehicle. And then I was also given item 7-12, which were clear and glass pieces recovered from the road. And I was given also 7-14, which was a clear piece of glass recovered from the road.
And now if we could, Ms. Hanley, just break those down sort of one by one. So starting with item 3-2, what was provided to you in reference to a description of what that item was?
Sure, so item 3-2 was a clear glass cup with broken irregular edges, and there was dirt debris on the exterior and interior of the cup.
Now, did you measure that item?
I did.
And what measurements did you obtain from that item, the drinking glass?
I just would need to refer to my report for measurements.
Okay, you can do that. You have your report right there. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the diameter of the bottom of the glass cup was 2 3/4 inches, and it measured approximately 2.5 inches in height.
You mentioned that there was debris on both the interior and exterior of the drinking glass, is that correct?
Yes.
Now turning your attention to item 3-3, what was provided to you as a description of item 3-3?
Sure, so item 3-3 consisted of 5 pieces of clear glass, all with broken irregular edges.
And was there anything provided in the description of where those 5 pieces of broken glass were located?
Yes, they were recovered from the bumper of a vehicle.
And was there any identifying information provided to you as far as in reference to that vehicle?
The only other description of the item is the license plate of the vehicle.
I hope you feel better, Julie.
What was the license plate that was provided?
So it was MA3GC684.
And did you measure each of those respective items?
Yes, I did.
Now, as far as before we get to the measurements, Ms. Hanley, when it comes to a lab item number, say 3-3, that has multiple pieces to it, how are each of those individual pieces then subsequently labeled?
So sometimes we'll subsequently label them with a lettering system.
And as far as these particular pieces contained within item 3-3, the pieces of glass from the bumper of the defendant's vehicle, how are they labeled?
So these were labeled A through E.
And with reference to the measurements, what measurements did you obtain from the pieces within item 3-3?
Sure, so I measured the largest and the smallest, and the largest measured approximately 7/8 of an inch by 5/16 of an inch, and the smallest measured approximately 3/16 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch.
Have a good day. Thanks for being here.
Now, with reference to the drinking glass, you examined that microscopically, is that correct?
I did, yes.
And with reference to these items from item 3-3 from the bumper, you examined those microscopically as well, is that correct?
Correct.
And was there a particular piece from the pieces from the bumper that you did any additional examination of?
Yes, I did.
And what instruments did you use in which piece?
Sure, so there was one piece, I sampled a piece E that I had labeled as piece E. And I took a sample for examination under the polarized light microscope and a sample to analyze it instrumentally on the GREM instrument.
They said
Now,
five.
turning your attention to item 7-12, what was provided to you as a description for item 7-12?
Sure. So item 7-12, that consisted of 5 pieces of clear apparent plastic and 9 pieces of clear apparent glass with all with broken irregular edges.
Now, the 9 apparent pieces, well, let me ask you this first. As far as the description that you were provided, was there any description as far as where those items were recovered from?
Yes. Those items were recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
And is it your understanding they were recovered from the street or the roadway outside of that residence?
It just says recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Now, as far as the 9 pieces of clear apparent glass from item 7-12, were those similarly sub-labeled as the previous item 3-3?
Yes, I received those labeled with the lettering system. They were labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L.
And with reference to those 9 pieces of glass, did you examine those microscopically as well?
I did, yes.
Now, turning your attention to item 7-14, what were you provided with as far as a description of that item 7-14?
So this item consisted of 1 piece of clear glass with broken irregular edges.
And similarly, was there any description provided as to where that item was recovered from?
Yes, it was recovered from 34 Fairview Road as well.
So she's still on the light bending, right?
And again, how many pieces were contained within that item 7-14?
7-14 was just 1 piece of glass.
And did you measure that item as well?
That item, I do not have the measurement of. It was examined by a previous analyst within the unit, so that measurement was taken at that time.
And that other analyst would be Mix Valier, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as your examination of that item 7-14, what type of instruments did you use to examine 7-14?
So I sampled 7-14 to examine it under the polarized light microscope, as well as to analyze it instrumentally using the GREM instrument.
Where did who go?
Are you familiar with a term called a class characteristic?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury what that is?
Sure. So a class characteristic is when a material can be associated with a group of items that share characteristics.
And what is an individual characteristic?
An individual characteristic is when a material can be related to a single source, such as a physical match.
And so what is the difference between a class characteristic versus an individual characteristic?
So class characteristic is that it can be associated with a group of items that share characteristics.
Why does almost every question that she answers sound like a question is at the end of it? Or am I just imagining things?
Versus the
Again.
Individual characteristic, it's more individualizing. It can be related to a single source, just in the case of like a physical match.
And what is a physical match?
So a physical match is if an item is broken and those pieces are compared to each other and their broken irregular edges fit back together, and they have a jigsaw fit, that would be considered a physical match.
I'm with you guys, 100%.
Now, can you please explain to the jury the steps and the process that you undertook in your comparative analysis of items specifically of glass in this case?
Sure. So I first did a comparison of all of the glass pieces and the glass cup that were recovered from the road. So those were items 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14. So I examined all of those to determine if there was a physical match between any of those items first.
You, Heather.
And there were
Yeah,
I believe
absolutely.
6 pieces of glass from item 7-12 that fit mechanically to the cup that was also recovered from the road, item 3-2. After I completed that examination, I then did a comparison to see if there was a physical match to some of the 2 of the glass pieces from the bumper. And there were 5 total from the bumper. 2 of them I used for physical match comparison. And there was no physical match comparison between those 2 pieces from the bumper, item 3-3.
I think that's exactly why they're filling this in our mind right now. Because we won't retain it and it'll confuse us. Or that's what they think.
Compared to the glass pieces and the cup that were recovered from the road. And then I sampled, as I had mentioned earlier, one of the pieces from the bumper to
Keep in mind, these pieces had to stay on the bumper for over 60 miles and for several hours. I mean, come on.
do further microscopic and analytical analysis on, and did a comparison with one of the pieces from the road.
Can I see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please?
I am so glad that you said that because I almost said something earlier and I'm like, no, Michelle, keep it under wraps. Don't be the one to say that. I'm right there with you. I was wondering, but I didn't want to be the one to call it out. So I've been waiting and waiting. It's like they are all either medicated or had some little wacky tobacco. You see it, right? It just ends like that. I can't just end it like that. I don't know that it's a sidebar.
We can leave those.
I think they might be done. Hold on. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hold on. No, it's done. So a sidebar just went to them just going home. You're thinking what I'm thinking, huh? Thank you. You sent a couple articles. Okay. They're done, you guys. No, I thought the early dismissal was tomorrow. Was Wednesday, not today. I don't think they understand what they're doing to us. We are too invested. You cannot just cut us off like that. You can't do that. You have no soul. What do you mean? It's over. It's over. Thank you. Yes, complaint departments. Yes, 100%. All right, let me check the messages you sent. What's Diddy bopping? What do you mean? Oh. Bye, Brandy. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. They literally did just cut us off like that. I can't understand this right now. What's the other one? Jail worker claims that inmates threatened to shank him during Orleans Parish escape. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you too. Maintenance employee Sterling Williams arrested and charged after allegedly helping 10 inmates break out with 6 still at large. Orleans Parish Jail maintenance worker arrested in connection with the escape of 10 inmates from that jail on Friday reportedly said that he was threatened with violence by the escapees before helping them get loose. Sterling Williams, 33, an employee of New Orleans Parish Sheriff's Department, has... I was reading and I glanced down and there's this animation of this cat like urinating on the bottom of the page, and that totally threw me off. Sorry. Has been arrested and charged with 10 counts of principal to simple escape and malfeasance in office, according to a Tuesday morning statement from the Attorney General's office. Muriel said that Williams turned the water off in the cell inmates escaped from, and that instead of reporting the inmates, he helped them. However, according to the Associated Press, Williams claimed in his arrest affidavit that the escapees threatened to shank him if he didn't aid them in their breakout. He reportedly told police that one of the escaped inmates tried to take his phone and get him to bring a book with Cash App information. The OPSO did not immediately return a comment request. I mean, I'm done with people. Like, so they're saying we will uncover the facts eventually. I'm sorry, what? We will uncover all the facts eventually. Who uses that word? When you're trying to reassure us, don't worry, it'll happen eventually. The hell? Eventually, and anyone who aided and abetted will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law allows. I encourage anyone who knows anything, and even those who may have provided assistance, to come forward now to obtain the best possible outcome in their particular case. Right? Clearly no. Clearly he had a problem with that. 10 inmates escaped from the prison early Friday morning, and 6 remain on the run. The most recent arrest came on Monday night. Gary Price, who was in jail awaiting trial for multiple counts of attempted murder and was captured by the Louisiana State Police. LSP said Tuesday that Price was arrested in New Orleans East by their detectives and SWAT teams. He was flown by a helicopter back to jail. Anybody think they should be putting him somewhere else because they know the flaws now? We don't need him back in the same prison. They gave us an update and I'm bitching about the update too. I'm over myself. Hold on. Nope. I think that's everything we needed to cover that was important right now anyways. Like imperative. So, we are done. I hear the storm starting again. We are done. We'll be continuing tomorrow at 11 Central Standard Time. It's our last day of Care and Read for the week, so make sure you don't miss it. Thank you for getting us to over 85,000 likes, guys. I really appreciate it. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys. Have a good night.